my friends, my name is Lindsey and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. With it being our recent reads video today, I have Christian fiction, clean fiction, childhood favorite books that I reread. Well, listened to, but they count as a reread in my opinion. So, I have a lot of books. I have 17 books to talk about today. I'm so sorry, this video is going to be easily over an hour long. I hope you enjoy it, but please do feel free to skip around. I have the timestamps linked in the description. That is what they're there for. So if you only care about one category or you only want to see a couple genres, that is more than fine to just skip around to whatever interests you. With those books all being listed in the description, I'm also going to have all my full content reviews linked. And if it's just a clean fiction book, I will have those linked to Goodreads because that's where I just put clean fiction, and then Christian fiction goes on my blog. So that's just a little difference there. And then I have these organized in different categories from lowest-ish rated to highest rating to hopefully end this video on a better note. But I'm actually... I might switch things up as I film, but let's just go ahead and get started with Christian fiction. For middle grade books, I read 3 different ones, and the first one I want to discuss is Operation Happy by Jenni L. Walsh. Look how cute this cover is. This cover is absolutely adorable. Major props to the cover designer and the illustrator. I love this cover. The inside I'm a little torn about. I have mixed feelings about, to say the least. But this is about a girl named Jody, who is about 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, and her father is a Marine. And in 1941, in 1940, her family is moved to go to Pearl Harbor. If you know history, you know where this is going. In December of 1941, Pearl Harbor is bombed, and we see the pre-that, during that, and post-that. And basically Jody's life with her very special dog, Happy. And Happy was great. I don't typically... Oh, how can I say this? I like books with dogs, but I also get incredibly nervous about books with dogs because the dog needs to make it, like, okay. Throughout the whole book, I want nothing to happen to the dog. I'm a very sensitive dog lover. And I have been since I was itty bitty. So I felt like I was just going into this book thinking, please don't make me cry, please don't make me cry, please don't make me cry, please don't make me cry. And I do admit to tearing up a few times because Happy is just a great dog, and the unconditional love of dogs is just so sweet. And so I did tear up a few times. Thankfully Happy is fine by the end of the book. There is mentions of Happy getting older though, so if that's hard for you to read, just a heads up on that. This is very interesting though because we're seeing when America gets basically dragged in to World War II through a middle grader's perspective. And that's hard, you know? I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but when I read middle grade books about very important historical events, and when they're done like this one, where like the girl is in the thick of it, there's just a different level of heaviness. It's very solemn compared to reading an adult fiction book. Because I've read multiple Christian fiction, adult fiction books about World War II. And yes, those are heavy, but seeing it through a kid's perspective is just another level. You know, maybe it's just because they're seeing this very traumatic event, or just, you know, that you wish they didn't have to go through this. And it's just, I'm not sure what exactly it is, but that's just really, like, that's a different level to me. So we do have a lot about the war, and she is on Pearl Harbor when it's being bombed. So it's like, it's a big thing. And this is actually, I found out in the acknowledgments, based off of a real life story. It's inspired by a real life lady who grew up and later wrote a book about her experiences. And based off of the reviews, it sounded like a lot of the major plot points in Operation Happy happened to her. And I wish I would know what was fact and what was fiction. That would have been my one thing on that. My major mixed feelings though on this book is I received an advanced reader copy. And before Chapter 14 starts, the page before, is when the attack happens and the main girl's father takes God's name in vain. And it said, my G-O-D, but the G is lowercase. So I don't know if that is a typo because, you know, if it was a capital G, it could be taken as, oh, he's crying out to God to help them kind of thing, right? You can take it that way. But when it's a lowercase g, that is taking God's name in vain, in my opinion. And being published by Zonderkids, that's going to be incredibly disappointing. Now again, I had an advanced reader copy. I know things weren't final in that copy, so I'm actually waiting for my library to get a copy of this book, and I'm going to double check that. And that is really going to alter my opinions and thoughts on this book, because as a Christian published Christian fiction book for middle grade readers, I don't believe that should be happening. God's name should not be taken in vain at all. Now, if you look at it as a clean, secular middle grade book, it could be a great resource, especially because the girl is in the thick of it. We see her life directly affected in every way. So homeschooling families could really enjoy it, but taking God's name in vain isn't okay with me. And so I have very mixed feelings on this book. I put it as a 3-star personally, but if that is taking God's name in vain in the final copy with the lowercase g still being lowercase, the ratings are probably going to drop, which is really, really unfortunate. Another middle grade book I read was The Hidden Message by Lois Walfrid Johnson. This is book 2 in the Adventures of the Northwoods series. I didn't grow up on this series, so I really don't have any nostalgic ties to it, so I feel like I'm looking at this series a little harsher probably than most readers, also because, you know, I review for ages 9 to 19, and for the younger age group, I'm going to be incredibly detailed so parents know what is in the book they are potentially handing to their young kiddo. But the main girl in this one's a stinker, y'all. Like, crushes start getting entered in, and she deliberately disobeys. And so I'm not really a fan of this series thus far. It's just falling down my totem pole of reading because it's a little torturous for me. I'm so sorry to friends who love this series, and I know there's quite a few of y'all based on my comments. I'm so sorry. She's a little bit of a mess. But this is about Kate, and in the first book, her mother gets remarried to a man in Wisconsin, and so they up and move, and he has 3 kids. Three? Does he have 3 kids? Oh, my mind just went blank. She's got an older brother now, a younger brother, and a younger sister, so yes, 3. And then there's her who's in the middle-ish. And there's a lot of sibling bickering, name calling, and I'm not personally a fan of that. Personally, that was something I was super sensitive to as a young reader in this age, was name calling. So I think I'm still sensitive to seeing that in middle grade books. It's an entertaining thing, but my thing with these books thus far is the mystery doesn't come in until like a little bit towards the end, and they're already really short books. But basically, this one, Kate, there's a stranger, things are being stolen, there's a piano that has a hidden message, hence the title. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It's not enthralling me, to say the least. My other middle grade book would be Frozen Hearts by Cara Ruegg. I'm not sure how to pronounce this author's name. I apologize. I gave this one a 3.5 stars personally. I think boys and girls ages 12 to 15 would probably enjoy this the most. This is a retelling of the Snow Queen, but it's kind of more of a brother-sister bond story. And there's different things. I do think there could be a few comments that could be potentially triggering or upsetting to adoptees or those who don't live with their biological families. So just a heads up for parents of those kiddos. It was very interesting. It's fantasy. It's very much based off of like the European style, like very, very, very in that culture, which I thought was very interesting because, you know, Snow Queen, we're familiar with the elements of Frozen, most likely you are as well. But this was a different take on it. It had a lot of like the Danish influences, which I'm not really familiar with, but I thought that was interesting. It is fantasy. There is dark magic that has punishments. So there's the good magic and then there's the bad magic. I feel like if you're okay with Narnia, you probably would be okay with this series. I don't really know. I'd be really curious for those who have read Narnia and read this one. Did you like it? Was it maybe, did you see the similarities? Did you not see the similarities? I would be really curious. There was just a couple little things, if I could nitpick, that I didn't care for that I went on in my review, but honestly, it wasn't bad. I think the cover's really pretty. The story inside was very different than my normal reads, but overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. Let's move on into suspense because I have one book for that, and that would be Never Fall Again by Lynn H. Blackburn. This is book 1 in the Gossamer? I think it's Gossamer. I'm pretty sure it's Gossamer, and I'm going to be proud if that's right. Gossamer Falls series. This was really different, but from the author's other books that I've read, but I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. This is about our main girl named Landry, which, love that note, that name, note, I love that name, let me rephrase that. And she has been through a lot, as most of our romantic suspense girls have, and she is a single mom just trying to be an artist in the middle of, where was this? Like North Carolina? Yes, North Carolina. I read a lot of books about North Carolina, actually, I feel like. I think I've had like 3 or 4 now. In this video I'll talk about. That's weird. That's really weird because my mom's friend who moved to North Carolina was just with us for like this past week and it was so much fun. That's so weird. Anyway, so Landry is a single mom. She's an artist. She does pottery, which I have read 2 books. I think my other one was in my last recent reads. I think it was that one, which was Fatal Witness. That book, she was a potter. This girl is a potter, and I just think that's really funny because they're both published by Revell within like a couple months of each other, and it's just telling me I need a pottery wheel. That's what it's telling me. I want a pottery wheel, y'all. I just think that'd be so much fun. And my dad's just like, no, you don't need another hobby, which he's not wrong. I do have a lot of hobbies, but they're all so much fun, so it's fine, right? Anyway, Landry is a single mom, and I keep saying the same thing. Let me start again. So we have Callum, and he is in the construction field, and they just have, oh, how can I explain this book? The back cover of this makes it sound very suspenseful, and this book was not. There was a bit at the beginning, and then a little bit in the middle, and then a bit at the end, but literally I would say this book was probably 15% suspense and the rest just sweet romance. It was honestly really cute. This was a very different style from the author's prior trilogy I read that I enjoyed elements of. I found some things to be a little coarser maybe, not crude or crass, but coarser than I prefer in my romantic suspense books, but because this was the start of a new series, I was really curious on how this one would start, and you know, I really enjoyed it. One part I just absolutely adored, and I talked about it in my buzzwords video I did that a couple videos ago. I talked about how they went through a suspenseful moment. The main girl was just like stressed beyond belief, but scared, all that kind of thing. And the main guy just asks, can I pray for you? And then does. Oh, all the hard eyes, my dear friends, because I don't see that often in Christian fiction, disappointingly so. And I loved that it had that element. And I was watching some of the clips the author had posted on Facebook, and she probably did them on Instagram as well, I'm not sure. But I was watching some of them, and she said that this was a very different writing style for her compared to her other books, but this was the writing style she really likes, where it's more on the romantic side than the suspenseful side. And I honestly really enjoyed it. For age rating, I would put it probably 15, 16 up. Because of some of the past things that Landry's had to go through. The romance was just really cute though. The main guy was just a sweetheart, and I just liked a lot of different elements about it. I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the series. Yeah, it was overall really good. Oh, sorry, I want to note one more thing on Never Fall Again, that don't go in expecting heavy suspense. Like I kind of already said, it's only like 15% of the plot, or even like the whole book is a suspense. But don't expect like Lynette Easton, Lisa Harris, like with all the actions and car chases and shootouts and all that, because that's not this book. But if you like a way more light suspense with more romantic parts, this book would be probably more for you. So yeah, I liked that difference. For contemporary, I have 2 books. Well, technically 1 book and a novella, but the first book would be Just for the Summer by Melody Carlson. So this book, now, okay, let me go back. Melody Carlson is one of the first, if not the actual first, Christian fiction authors I ever read when I discovered the genre many years ago now. Let's see that, 12, 13 years ago for sure. Might be 13 or 14 actually now. And so when I saw about this book where it's about 2 women who switch lives, one runs her grandfather's fishing lodge hunting retreat cabin, and the other one is at a very upscale boutique in Seattle. And they swap lives. They do a little job switch thing, and that is very Melody Carlson-esque. Like that plot line, very much her like when I think of Melody Carlson, that's the kind of plotline I think of. Contemporary little bit of cheese, some romance, and then hopefully character development. That's what I think of when I think of her books. And so this was kind of like, to me, this was Melody Carlson going back to her roots, which in reality, no, it probably wasn't, but that's how I view her books as. And so we have two main characters, and that's Jenni, who runs the, Jenni, who runs the upscale boutique, and then we have Jacqueline, who is a pill. As my grandmother would say, she's a pill and a half. But she runs her grandfather's fishing lodge, and now, that's the thing. I ended up giving this book 2 stars. 2.5 stars, forgive me. 2.5 stars. And like 13-year-old Lindsey, or just preteen Lindsey, probably really would have enjoyed this book. But 24, almost 25-year-old Lindsey did not care for Jacqueline. Because I forgot how good this author is at writing the most shallow, annoying characters that you just want to whack. Because, oh my goodness, Jacqueline was something else. And like Jenni was really good. She honestly could be a doormat for other people, but she has a faith that we see elements of, and that was good. But Jacqueline doesn't show anything, and she is very, very superficial, very shallow, and we get a quick 180 right at the end. So like you can have hope that she gets better, but we never really see any faith developments regarding to her. So honestly, I would put this almost more as like a clean fiction. When I think of this book, there was not enough faith content, in my opinion. It definitely felt like it could have been like on the Kindle Unlimited with the clean rom-coms, which I'll be talking about a lot of those in a minute. So I kind of know what I'm talking about, I guess you could say, because I did read quite a few. Brace yourself if you like drama, but also brace yourself for Jacqueline, because you will probably want to smack her. I feel like 9.5 out of 10 people will want to smack her. And like you can see where she's coming from and why she is the way she is eventually. But in the meantime, she's just incredibly selfish and shallow and superficial. And again, this author writes those characters well. I'm thinking of all the teen YA books I read from her. That's a very important thing. But you see them eventually grow out of it. And from my understanding, this is a standalone. So, yeah, it wasn't as good as I was hoping, which was really unfortunate. I liked parts of it, and it was a distraction as I read for a few hours, but definitely not a new favorite, which I'm so disappointed about because I'm sure it has a pink spine. I haven't seen a picture of it, but I'm nearly positive with this cover it's got a pink spine. And I need more pink books. I need more pink books. So that was unfortunate, but it was fun to read a contemporary book by Melody Carlson because I haven't read one of her like non-Christmas ones in a while. I mean, Happy Camper, that one wasn't Christmas, but I group that one with the Christmas ones for some reason. But anyway, next book. On Easter Sunday on the way to church, you've read the Easter novella, and We Are Gathered Here by Erynn Mangum. That is Easter Carats. This is so cute. Okay, let's put the cover back over here now. But this is such a cute novella. It's like 57 pages. It's got very light, like enemies to more, matchmaking. He falls first. Like, it's all very light. But unlike a lot of this author's other books, now mind you, Erynn Mangum is one of my all-time favorite authors. If you've been any bit on my channel, you probably already know this. But we very rarely get the guy's perspective in her books. But in this novella, we did. And it was so sweet. And I like it. It's also the opposites attract, I think you could say, trope. Like, it has all the tropes, but it's not where... Because I'll probably note this in some of the clean fiction rom-coms I'll talk about at the end of this video, that it's not where the tropes are running the show. It is a plot and these tropes just happen to be in it, if that makes any sense at all. Because that's one thing I'm really noticing with clean fiction, that's getting a little annoying, that the tropes are the plot kind of thing. And sometimes they're done well and sometimes it's just kind of shoehorned in. But this one, it flowed so wonderfully. It was so cute. 57 pages. I just wish it was full length. That would be my one thing. I liked the main characters, the side characters, their family members. They were all just so much fun. Set at Easter time. It was just lovely to read. 4.5 stars. the next book is going to be our last book for Christian fiction, and that is going to be a historical book, and that is While the City Sleeps by Elizabeth Camden. So this book I gave 2 stars, unfortunately. I have read all of this author's books with the exception of like 1 or 2 novellas, I think, but I've read all of her full lengths. And I always love giving them a try because the historical details are just fascinating. Like, I just think they're not necessarily random, but they almost feel random because you've never heard about them before. But the author does such great research and it's fascinating. Now, mind you, some of her books are hits for me, like The Spice King. Others are misses, like this book. And this book felt really off to me. And I have later now figured out why, and I'll get to that in a second. But it felt off to me. It didn't feel like an Elizabeth Camden book. The characters' reactions felt weird. Like, it just didn't feel like an Elizabeth Camden book. And I was discussing this with a dear book friend, and we were going back and forth, and it felt like a lot of historical information dumping. And by that, I mean with a lot of the books I've read by her, the historical plotline just flows so well, and you just get the historical elements of the plot, like about this machine or this career. You just get it so naturally woven into the plot. And this book, it wasn't like that. And it was very like, okay, this career, here's about this. And then, oh, she's a dentist, here's this, which, dentist? I mean, no offense to those who may watch my videos and work in that field or have family members that do. I don't like going to the dentist. I don't think anyone really does, but like, I had a lot of problems when I was a kid with dentists, so I'm not a fan of that. So just all of that element right there, I was just like, turning my stomach here talking about saliva and whatnot. I can't. So that probably also was a part of the miss for me. There were so many things in this book. So our main girl is a dentist. What was her name? Her name just went out of my head. Catherine. Main guy is Jonathan, and he is basically a police officer. But he has a major secret, and we start to figure out his secret about 50 pages in, and I'm just like, this guy is shifty. Why is he shifty? Oh, the secret is revealed, and that's why. Oh, I'd like to say I feel like I've got like Lindsey senses, like forget Spider-Man senses or whatever. I feel like with main guys, it's like something's off about him. Why is he off? And is it the author dropping hints, or is it like my own intuition going, what's up with this guy? I'm not sure, but I've noticed that a lot, and I think it only works for fictional men. It doesn't work for real life men. But regardless, it was, here's the thing. Whenever the main girl says, like, she detests liars or lying, do you know what that means? That means the main guy's a liar. That is just what that means, and there's going to be a problem, and there were problems. There were a lot of problems. It just didn't feel like an Elizabeth Camden book. It didn't have the historical details and scenes. It just felt off to me. And interesting enough, I have found out 2 weeks after reading this book with the author's announcement that she's starting to write a contemporary series. So she's going to have 1 historical fiction book a year and then a contemporary book a year. A book and a book. In both genres. And I think that's it. And now that I see that, it's like a light bulb went off in my head. That's it. Because when you write a contemporary book, it's going to have a very different feel compared to a historical book. And I don't know I don't know how the author did in like the sense of, was she drafting one book and then editing the other, or like that kind of thing. I have no idea. But I just know this While the City Sleeps felt off to me. And that makes perfect sense that, oh, the author was thinking about or even writing a contemporary book around the same time, or thinking about it, whatever. That makes a lot of sense to me, but also it just fell off, and I'm really disappointed because her last few books have not been my thing for different reasons. And that's just real. Like, I enjoyed Hearts of Steel mostly, but it still wasn't a 4-star read for me, which was sad. This is really, and I did a poll of this on Instagram, of would you rather read a book with a mediocre plot and great characters, or a great plot with mediocre characters? And for me, I'm always going to choose the mediocre plot with great characters. The characters can be brushing their teeth reading the back of a cereal box, and I'm going to enjoy it. Basically, any Erynn Mangum character can do that, and I'm enthralled. It's like, yeah, what's going on? Oh, my earring just fell off. In case you didn't know, I wear clip-ons. There you go. Because your girl doesn't like needles. And I grew up hearing horror stories of the earring piercing gun getting stuck in my mom's ear. So I will not get my ears pierced. So anyway, so like I was saying, I really don't care for mediocre characters. The plot can be fantastic or very interesting. And this plot could have been, but these characters, they just weren't it. Particularly him. She had her moments of being very selfish. And it was concerning in a lot of ways, but he just really kind of ruined the book for me. And also let me mention this, the rivalry he had with his co-worker. Now mind you, they kind of grew up together in a similar orphanage, and so they've always like kind of thing, you know, but they are 34 years old and they are carrying this through. Like, if there's, like, okay, in their 20s, I could see it. But you're 34 on the same police force. Get over it. Like, that was really annoying. I'm not gonna... And then how it all happened at the end? If you know, I'm not happy with how that all ended up. I'm very, very disappointed. I had a really high hope for something happening in the later... maybe another book of the series. It's not gonna happen now. And that was very disappointing. I was very disappointed about that. There also, for the faith content, was really light, which we're having more and more in the Christian fiction genre. And I know clean fiction sells nowadays, but I do find it really disappointing that we're seeing more and more Christian fiction switching over to the more clean fiction with a little bit of faith content. And in this case, the main guy, Jonathan, is Catholic, and we're under the impression that our main girl is Protestant. And we're not going to get into the debates of all that, but I do feel like that should have at least been discussed between the main characters, especially before like they're confessing their loves for each other, you know, because that's very different backgrounds. Very different viewpoints. And then if you want to marry someone in the Catholic Church, you typically have to be a part of the Catholic Church yourself. I have friends' parents who have had to do that. And so there was a lot more that needed to happen in faith regards with these two in discussions, because it's kind of just brushed under the rug. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. One thing I did really like about this book, though, is it really highlighted the bravery of those in the law enforcement field, especially in this time period. Because you think about, like, when we have bombs and bombers and explosions and terrorists here, that we have a lot of technology, like literal technology, to help with that nowadays. Back then, they didn't have that, obviously. And so that is a lot of literally life or death moments. And now, mind you, there's a lot of life or death moments for our law enforcement officers now. But back then it was just different. Like, okay, you need the bomb to be defused, someone's going in, kind of thing. And this had a lot of that elements with like the mafia and terrorists and bombs and all that kind of thing. That was a very big part of this book. So I did really, like, it gave me a tremendous, even more of a tremendous appreciation for the law enforcement. And because it was really, I hate to use the word interesting, but it was, I guess, eye-opening to think about how it was done in that historical time period. So there was things I enjoyed about this book, but overall I would say it was disappointing. So that is all the Christian fiction I will be talking about in this video. So if you are only interested in Christian fiction, feel free to click off now. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. Thank you for watching this far into the video. I'm going to talk about my clean fiction reads and then my childhood favorites, because I just want to end the video off spinning around in a circle with hearts in my eyes, because that's what that series does to me, and if you know, you know. But for clean fiction, I have 1 Regency and then 6 rom-coms, and I would like to plead my defense, Your Honor, and my dear viewers, because here's the thing. When I read a Christian fiction book, especially because I review, and how detailed my review process is, if you've seen my reviews before, which probably most of y'all watching have. If you haven't, this kind of gives you a little overview of how detailed my reviews are. And so I read a book, let's say it's like 300 or so pages. That takes me 3 to 4 hours to read. If I read it on Kindle, I'm highlighting all the content as I go. So once I'm done with the book, I will then re-look through all my notes I took on the book, all those highlights, and put them into a document, do the formatting, type everything up, get it onto BFCG, ready to go. That takes another 3 to 4 hours. So you could say it's 6 to 8 hours for a Christian fiction book to be fully reviewed in the formatting that I do. Now with clean fiction books, especially if they're like clean rom-coms, I can just go through them in the sense of reading them and then, so like you could say, let's see, a clean rom-com, 300 pages. If it's one that I'm really like interested in the plot, it has the tropes I like, I would say it's probably about 2 to 3 hours. Like I can just read those faster. And then content-wise, I don't type up everything in detail like I do for Christian fiction. So a clean fiction book, typing up the content and going through probably only takes me about an hour because I just list the main content. So we go from 6 to 8 hours for clean fiction to 4-ish? 3 to 4 hours for our clean fiction. And some days I want to read and I just don't have the time to commit to Christian fiction. And I don't want this to sound like an excuse for how many clean fiction books I've read, but I just want to give like maybe an understanding that this is why I have so many clean fiction books on this recent reads, is because I've just been reading them before I go to bed at night. They're just quick, easy, turn off the brain, which I need a lot of days, so that's why they require a lot less brain power and work on my end. And don't get me wrong, I love doing BFCG, and doing those full content reviews is a labor of love and a passion the Lord has given me. And so I will continue doing that until He tells me elsewise. But that does take a lot of time. With clean fiction, it's kind of, I guess you could say, like watching a Hallmark movie or something. Like, it's just watching a movie for an hour or two, or like reality TV or whatever you want to say. Scrolling TikTok for an hour or whatnot, Reels, whatever. It's like that for me. It's like I want to read, but I can't commit the time I typically would commit to it. So I just read a little clean fiction book. And some of them are not bad. Some of them are duds. Like a lot of them are duds. And quite a few of these I'm going to be talking about are that. So I just kind of want to give that little background there. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. Hopefully it makes sense to y'all. But yeah, that's just kind of my viewpoint on clean fiction. I'm never going to just exclusively read clean fiction. Christian fiction is always going to have a piece of my heart. But I think it also needs to be noted that we're seeing less and less Christian fiction with actual Christian content and actual faith discussions, and that's really disappointing. So I'm always going to keep trying to find those hidden gems in that genre. Clean fiction is just like for a break from my brain that doesn't require any work. So with that, for clean Regency, I read Beauty and the Baron by Joanna Barker. This is one of those forever after retellings, which is like fairy tale retellings set in the Regency time period. I am slowly making my way through that series. All of them except one book is on Kindle Unlimited, so I definitely am going to check out the other ones. I think I have 2 or 3 actually on my Kindle Unlimited loan shelf. I don't know what you call that. Like, I have it checked out. Anyway, this is a clean Regency fiction book with no major language and no sexual content other than kissing. This is obviously a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it was really cute. I gave it 4 stars. This series, I read this one, and then the other one, The Steadfast Heart, that was the Steadfast Tin Soldier retelling. With the soldier, I struggle with that word. I mean, I struggle with a lot of words, but that word particularly. And that one I talked about in my last recent reads, which I think I've already linked in the cards, so I'll put it in the description. But I really enjoyed that one. I thought that one was really sweet. This one I also enjoyed. I gave 4 stars. Henry is our main guy, and he's not a beast. He's just a grump who likes to stay at home. And I think I really liked that angle more than the original tale because he was just a grump. He had no curse or anything like that. Our main girl, her name just escaped me, Rose, that's right, Rose. Rose is our main girl though, and her father ran a bookstore. She was very involved in the bookkeeping and all of that. Absolutely loved it, but unbeknownst to her, her father was racking up debts. And so he goes off to a debtor's prison, and she's just at a loss on what to do. And so she goes to our main guy, Henry, at his little estate, not his little estate, his big estate, and asks if she can work off her father's debt to him. You know, it's Beauty up in the face. What do you expect? And so she becomes a maid, but she's unlike the other maids because she is very well read and very well spoken and all that kind of things. It's a lot of hard work. But honestly, it was just really cute. Yes, it had that fairy tale cheese to it, but it was cute. Like, I really enjoyed that one. He did have a moment where he was like a complete and utter idiot, but then we quickly see his point of view, and it's like, oh wait, okay, false alarm, put down the hatchets and the pitchforks. There's a plan, it's okay. But it ended quickly, so that part was okay. Just overall, I really enjoyed it. It went by really fast. I was really sad. Like, I know I sped read it because I was enjoying it so much, but it just was over so fast, and I was like, oh, this was just so much fun. I mean, it was probably like 100 or so pages, like 150, I think this one was, and it was just really fun. He fell hard for her, and I just always think that's the cutest thing, when the guys fall hard. I just love that little detail. So overall, really cute. Honestly, I would have read like a 300-page version of this book. It was just so fun. Like, I have suggestions if the author wants to do that. Like, let's do it. Let's have that happen. I want to read a full-length version of this. It was cheesy and maybe predictable because of the fairy tale retelling stuff, but it was fun and it was cute. And I am now 2 for 2 out of this series of enjoying. So I'm a little nervous now. It's like, oh man, that's a pretty good odds. I think there's 6 in this series. Let me double check that. Yes, 6. So I'm definitely going to be checking out the other ones, especially the Rapunzel one. That probably will be the next one that I read. But I think I'm going to try to read all of them. But it was a pleasant surprise. Okay, moving on into clean rom-coms. I am ashamed to even say this title out loud. My Forbidden Billionaire. I'm so sorry. That's by Kirsten W. Joy. I was ashamed to add a book with this title to my Goodreads. I'm sorry, that might sound really like judgmental of me or whatnot, but like, y'all, that's just... You just hear that title, and yet this cover's cute, so it helps. But like, it had a real life cover. It's like, ooh, ooh. So I do these covers. Like, I know there's some readers that like them and don't. And I do agree that they kind of look unfinished with no faces, but I'd rather would have it with this than the real people on the cover. So this one was clean fiction with a lot of sexual tension and heavy kisses and no technical spice, but there was a lot of heavy kisses and it was ridiculous. So I didn't end up reading this one because it went past my comfort level in those romance elements. But basically the main girl in this, she is a teacher at this very fancy private school, and her student that she really likes, his father is a single billionaire. They get along great. You know, it's very much a story. I really don't have too much to say about it. Besides the fact that it was really heavy kisses, including tongue, which is like, I hope their dental hygiene routine is really good, because ew, y'all, just ew. Like, sorry, gross, no. Little things here and there I didn't care for. Mentions of alcohol and drinking, I've said before, that is a very personal thing that I do not care about seeing. I don't like that. There's a lot of mentions of fate and it leading people to the person they're supposed to be with, and I think that's a lot of gobbledygook. Just gonna say, I think that's really silly to see that much about, like, fate is really hyped up in this book. Josephine, the main girl, lived with her boyfriend for at least a while before they broke up. And what else? Oh yeah, kisses with tongue, already mentioned that, gross. No. And then they also kissed in public after they said it wouldn't be improper to show PDA in public, but then they start kissing and it's just like, Okay. So, yeah, he was rich, and it was ridiculous how much money he spent. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, this guy had, his finances, Anyway, it had cute moments, but it also had a lot of things I did not care for. Language-wise, there was no major language used. Josephine, the main girl's parents, were very belittling to her. I'm not gonna rate it. The romance went too much. Moving on. How to Kiss a Movie Star by Jenni Proctor. This is actually book 4 in the series, and Amazon did it to me again, and I didn't realize it was one of the later books of a series, which made sense after I figured it out. But clean fiction with one use of language and then some more mild innuendos. There is also kissing. There's quite a decent amount of heavy kissing in this book too, hence why I'm not going to rate this one as well. I do really like the celebrity trope. I think that's really cute. It had the fake dating trope, so I thought that was really cute. He fell first and hard, and that's really cute, so I wanted to give this book a try. The kissing though did get too much, and then there would be offhanded comments, so like it kind of reminded me of Courtney Walsh's hockey books, which I will discuss the second one here in a moment. But like My Phony Valentine and then My Lucky Charm, I'll discuss that second one here in just a couple books. But it reminded me of that kind of, but with a little bit more comments about physical appearances and assets and that kind of thing, which I didn't care for, which was really disappointing. I giggled a lot throughout this book, I will be honest. There was a lot of really cute moments and humor and that kind of thing, but there was just like odd and end things. I was just like, I don't really care for that. That was a bummer. Like if I could edit this book, I would be like, pull back, clip that kiss, get away with this comment. That's not necessary. Like, I would be doing a cleaning house. But, like, overall, bare bones of the plot, it was cute. But would I recommend it? No. No, I would not. Celebrities Don't Date Bookworms by Clara Nielsen. I gave 2 stars. This is more YA, really. This is complete One Direction fanfic spoof with YN vibes. YN meaning your name, very much like where you insert yourself into a story with a celebrity and then falling for you. It was very much that kind of thing. It was very Wattpad Tumblr-esque. I'm not sure why I finished it in all reality. I really don't know. I mean, 2 stars, I guess. It wasn't terrible, but like you could definitely tell it was a knock off the I'm Not Like Other Girls and the One Direction fanfic. So yeah, it was there. It was there, that's all I gotta say. Not really too much to say about that one. I've got a little bit of the content listed. There wasn't really much. There's not good lessons or morals, but they really didn't do anything stupid, the teenagers in this book. So that was good, but they did have a couple moments where I was like, okay, y'all are kissing too much. You're 16, 15, knock it off kind of thing, but that's just me. Sign Me Up by Dulcie Dameron, I think is how you pronounce the author's name. I gave this one 2 stars. It's clean romance with sexual tension and heavy kisses, but like no major spice or anything. It had its cute moments, and it's basically a workplace romance, which isn't my thing, but the main girl, her work best friend is this guy named Parker, and he happens to be deaf, hence the title. I thought that was a really cute play on the word for sign language. And it had its cute moments, but it also had a lot of moments where the secondhand embarrassment was so ridiculously high. And then there was just parts that it's just like, if this happened to me at my workplace, catch me moving to Timbuktu with the penguins or whatever lives with there. I don't know what even lives at the Timbuktu. Wouldn't really care. It could be human-eating tigers. Don't care. If that happened to me, I'm out. No. Like, I'm living with a paper bag over my head for the rest of my life kind of thing. So there was a lot of that. And they had their cute moments, but there was a third act annoyance thing that was ridiculous. Made them look like they were in high school. Really cute thought process and plot, but the little details and the general thing just wasn't what I really enjoyed. I may try another book out by this author, but it's really going to have a lot of things that interest me. Yeah, well. My Lucky Charm by Courtney Walsh. This is book 2 in the Holidays with Heart series. The first book was set around Valentine. That was a complete guilty pleasure read to me. Like, it definitely had more romance content than I prefer, but the plot just completely won me over and I read it so fast. This book was kind of like that in the same regard. It's set around St. Patrick's Day, which was very lightly set around St. Patrick's Day, but it was cute. It was really cute. I did skim the heavy kisses because I was just like, no, thank you, no. I don't need to know about all the details of their kissing, thank you. And like, it had a lot of noticing of his abs and locker room talk with the guys because the main guy is a hockey player. and a few thank gods that felt kind of flippant, like they could have been sincere, but we didn't really see faith from the characters. So it did have things I didn't care for, but overall content-wise, I would say the second book had less content in general compared to the first book. So I did give it 3 stars as well. The main girl, Eloise, is kind of a nutcase, but she's the most lovable nutcase you will ever meet. She becomes the main guy's assistant, and he's kind of a grump and a recluse, and he's not happy about recently being traded to this new hockey team. It was nice though, because like it is the sunshine grumpy trope, but he wasn't a grump in the sense of that he was just a jerk. Because I feel like a lot of times with the grumpy sunshine trope, the main guy is just a jerk for no good reason, you know? And he had his reasons, and he also had his moments where like, he's not completely grumpy kind of thing. He had that. It was overall pretty cute. There were some things that definitely could have been left out, in my opinion, content-wise. But I did overall enjoy the plot, and I really liked Eloise, so that helped. The last book for this clean rom-com category before we move on into my childhood favorite books would be Cinder Luna by Marie Soleil, maybe is how you pronounce the author's name. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was cheesy, I'm not gonna lie, but it was kind of a contemporary retelling with Cinderella almost vibes, and I liked a lot of elements of that. The main guy was very polite and kind, and I thought that was really sweet. But basically, it's a hidden identity trope where the main couple, so that's Luna and Henry, another Henry. Wow, I think that's the second or third Henry in this video. That's wild. I don't notice this when I'm reading, unless like they're back to back. I don't notice this. But when I do these recent reads and you've got like over a dozen books, names overlap really often. At least it feels like that in my videos. That's really weird. Anyway, so Luna and Henry are gamers, and they have played video games for each other for a long time, but they don't know the other's identity. They don't even, well, let me put it this way. Henry doesn't even know that Luna is a girl, because the gaming world can be a ugly, ugly world to girls. And so I actually really liked Luna a lot. I felt like I relate to her in a lot of ways, minus the whole video game aspect. It was overall really cute, really clean. I would definitely continue on with the rest of the series. Another thing I did really appreciate in this book was that Luna and then her best friend, who is engaged, kind of have a few mentions where they're not going to move in with the guy, a guy or the guy they're with, before marriage, and I just really appreciated seeing that just be mentioned here and there, and that the guys were respectful about it. It just made them all look like they had morals and standards, and I really appreciated that. And then also a positive personally to me was that there was no mentions of alcohol or drinking in this book. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how rare in clean fiction books where alcohol isn't mentioned? Because that's such... I feel like it's probably like this in a lot of other countries, but here in America, as soon as you turn 21, there is a major expectation of that, and it's just really annoying in how it's just so commonplace, and that's just something I am very passionate against. So it was just really nice to see a book that didn't have that. I honestly would probably buy a physical copy of this book. It was a retelling of Cinderella, but there were so many moments that like it didn't really click to me until a certain element. I'm like, oh, you're supposed to be this character in Cinderella, and I just thought that was really cute. And you know, overall, it was just really fun. I'm looking forward to the siblings stories. I will be watching out for the rest of this series, but overall, final verdict is this book was pretty cute. Not bad. Not bad at all. So those were all the clean fiction books. Okay, that was a lot, I know. I'm sorry for those that don't like clean fiction. Hopefully you just went ahead and skipped that. And so now we're going to move on into the best part of this video. My absolute winners for this recent reads. 3 out of 4 books, well, 3 out of 5 books of the Mysterious Benedict Society. The Mysterious Benedict Society and the Perilous Journey, I gave 4.75 stars. The Mysterious Benedict Society and the Prisoner's Dilemma, I gave 4.5 stars. And then The Extraordinary Education of Nicholas Benedict, I gave about 4.5 stars. I love this series. I've talked about the first book at great length and just lovely happiness. I just adore this series. I listened to all the audiobooks for the first time, so like I've read this one like 5 or 6 times, I think. I've read this third book 4 or 5 times, maybe 5 or 6, 4 to 6 times, and then I've read this one. This was, I think, my 3rd or 4th time reading the prequel novella about Mr. Benedict. If you've read the series and you haven't read Mr. Benedict's story, you should. But I suggest, like, reread the whole series, then read this one. It's just so fascinating to see young Nicholas Benedict, aka Mr. Benedict, in this series as a kid, and just how much, if you really pay attention, and I think I noticed that more this read-through than any other time, how much the 4 kiddos are like him. Like, just different parts. You've got just overall, he's really reminded me of Rainey, of course, but just like overall him. But then you've got the brilliant actions of Kate, and then the amazing memory and hunger for knowledge from Sticky, and then Constance with his stubbornness and his poems and rhymes. That was very Constance, and it was just so neat to see that. I did struggle actually a little bit in the last bit of this book keeping my focus, but I think that's just because of life, and I was gardening the entire time I listened to all of these books. So the 4th book in the official series came out a few years, I think it was before everything went crazy in 2019. I think it was 2018 it released. So I haven't read that one since then. I may listen to the audiobook of it, but it's not from the same guy that did these audiobooks. The audiobooks of these were fantastic, and I am so incredibly picky on audiobook narrators. I just really am, and I also really struggle, like, I don't want to listen to romance books. So middle grade audiobooks, I'm finding out that I think is where I like my audiobooks to be, in that category. But these audiobooks were just excellent. The main guy, the guy who did them, Delroy, Mr. Delroy, hats off to you, because you did a fantastic job with this series, and it was just so good. I could fangirl about this series for so long. I sincerely could. I just adore this series. It has my heart. I've talked about them forever and ever. I love the first book the most, and originally I would have said this one would have been my second out of the series, but in all reality, I'm going to put book 2 as my second favorite of the whole series, because I really enjoyed listening to this one. This read through, that was just so much fun, and I love these books. So let's have our stack of books. Ta-da! These are the only ones I have physically, and I mean, I didn't even fully read We Are Gathered Here. That was yet. I think, honestly, I probably will reread these other ones as I go, just because it's Erynn Mangum and I love her books. So I may just finish off that trilogy, but this, the collection, I mean, not trilogy, so sorry. But this is the stack of books. Not too many, honestly. Ones I would physically buy. Operation Happy, mixed feelings on. We are going to see what the verdict is on that one. We're going to see how that works out. My library just got it in, and I am the second person in line. So if I find out while editing this about that G being lowercase, being God's name being taken in vain, or uppercase could be taken as a plea for God's help, I will let y'all know in editing this if I've already edited it and then I find it out, where I'm going to put it in the description. But my review will be probably the best place to note, because I will be marking it either way. But I don't feel like I would probably buy a copy of that one. I did buy the copy of Never Fall Again, because I had an advanced reader copy ebook edition, so I did end up buying that one. And then Beauty and the Baron, I would probably buy that one, but it would probably be the size of a pamphlet, which would be a little disappointing because that's really tiny. And then Clean Rom-Coms, My Lucky Charm, I did enjoy that one. I thought that one was pretty cute. I probably would, and same with Cinder Luna, I might, but those are not high priority buys, and because they're indie print, they're more expensive, like they're actual full cost books, so I don't know when I'd buy those, or if I would, I might just wait around, see what I find on that. But those are the books I would potentially buy, maybe. We'll see. I'd love to know, though, if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of these? Did any of these catch your eye? Did I do okay explaining these books? I know I had like 17 books to cover, so I didn't really give y'all a ton of details of the plots. I kind of just gave you like the main little bit of some of them, and then a lot about my opinion, so hopefully that was okay. But anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. please feel free to chat with me in the comments about these books. It was a lot of books. Let me know that if you'd like to read any of these, your thoughts on any of them. You know, all my normal questions, but I do really love discussing these books in the comments with y'all, so I will see y'all there. I am Lindsey from the blog Books for Christian Girls at blogspot.com, where there is a new review every Monday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every Friday as well. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm trying. And then I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, Goodreads, all those many places to give you even more book recommendations for clean fiction and Christian fiction particularly. So I hope to see y'all here, there, and everywhere, and I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. Bye, y'all!